Squee by Stephen Lake. A team of young players grabbed a simple extermination quest from the local guild office job board, and then made their way out into the nearby forest to begin their campaign. Shortly after the campaign began, they came across a group of horned rabbits. Upon seeing them, 3 of the team members drew their weapons and prepared to attack. However, the 4th, a cute little mage girl, immediately became excited upon seeing them and began to squeal loudly. She then ran over to the horned rabbits, shouting, "Bunnies!" Her team, however, stood there in confusion and disbelief. That's not how you monster hunt," said one of them incredulously. "Bunnies! Bunnies! Bunnies!" the little mage girl continued to scream. The horned rabbits, completely confused as to what was happening, just sat there and stared in perplexity at her. This confusion increased further as the little mage girl pulled out some carrots and began feeding them to the rabbits. As she watched them chew happily on their gift, she stood there in sparkly-eyed wonder and joy. After the rabbits had finished their meal, they looked up at her in satisfied joy. She then took a quick second and made the rabbits into her personal familiars. Her team, in turn, stared at this in abject disbelief. "Do we just gain ourselves rabbit allies by rainbows and pixie dust?" asked one of them. "I honestly don't know," said another in confusion. It wasn't long after this before the little mage girl and her new rabbit familiars began to walk and sing and make happy sounds as they moved deeper into the quest. Her teammates, however, merely let out confused groaning sounds as they followed closely behind her. After walking for a short ways, the team ran into a small troop of goblins. To the surprise of her team, the little mage girl held out her yellow star wand and pointed it at the goblins. "Go, my bunny minions! Smash the ugly monsters!" she exclaims boldly. The horned rabbits soon turned their attention to the goblins, and then transformed from their currently happy, fluffy, fun, and cuddly animal forms into powerful, nightmare-fuel horned rabbits that then rushed forward and completely obliterated the goblins. They then returned to the little mage girl after a little bit and transformed back into their previously cute personas. The rest of her team all looked at this in shocked disbelief. The team then proceeded forward as the little mage girl resumed her happy, song-filled dancing march. A short distance later, the team ran into a new challenge. It was a group of green wolves who'd appeared in their path and snarled angrily at them. The horned rabbits, upon seeing this, transformed into their nightmarish horned bunny forms and prepared to charge at the wolves in defense of their master. However, before they could, the little mage girl squeaked again, causing them to pause. "Puppies!" she exclaimed happily, to the surprise of everyone there. She then ran toward the wolves, who recoiled slightly in surprise at this, and then hugged each of them individually like she'd just found the most incredible stuffed toy ever. "Puppies! Puppies! Puppies!" she screamed in excitement at this. To the surprise of everyone there, this caused the green wolves to soften and then eventually smile as they saw that she wasn't a threat to them. She then cast a taming spell over them that turned each of them into tiny puppy dogs with rainbow collars and golden star name badges. The others in her team watched this in disbelief as they stood there, uncertain of what exactly was happening. "Did she just turn a whole pack of green wolves into fluffy rat dogs?" asked one of them. I don't know," said another in confusion. The group soon resumed their journey, now with an additional group of familiars, and moved deeper into the quest they'd been sent on. A short distance later, they were ambushed by an orc who leapt out of the forest and charged at them. Upon seeing this, the little mage girl aimed her star wand at it and said, "Go, my puppies! Make that bad orc man learn his manners." Upon hearing this, the miniaturized green wolves suddenly transformed into massive, dark and ravenous monsters that were easily twice as big and 10 times more scary than they had been before. In fact, they were so terrifying that even the horned rabbits wet themselves. A few moments later, the small pack of green wolves returned again to the little mage girl, but did so in their tiny dog forms as their tongues lolled out of their mouths in joy. "Good puppies! Well done," she said happily at this. Her team and the horned rabbits just looked at this in both fear and abject confusion, uncertain if they should be terrified or grateful to have witnessed this. Not long after this, the team ran into yet more orcs that tried to attack them. However, the green wolves upsized once more and completely destroyed the orcs with PTSD-inducing fearsomeness before returning to their tiny dog forms and rejoining their master. A short distance later, the team encountered a single, massive firewolf that stood in the roadway and growled angrily at them. Once more, the green wolves transformed and approached it. However, their dark and ruthless appearance was so soul-crushingly terrifying that the formerly imposing firewolf tucked its tail between its legs and began to whimper in fear and trepidation as they approached. However, rather than killing it, since it was a fellow wolf, they convinced it to join them, which it gladly did, fearing that if it did not, it would die. Upon receiving the fire wolf into the team, the little mage girl cast a taming spell on it, causing it to shrink down into something that looked like a small Shiba Inu dog. "Are we doing a raid quest or building our own petting zoo?" asked one of the team members. "At this point, I'm not really sure." "Probably both," replied another. The team then continued on for a ways further, where they encountered a goblin general who was standing in the way. Without saying a word, the green wolves and the fire wolf immediately transformed and obliterated him without so much as trying. After returning to their original forms, the team continued on in song, rainbows, pixie dust, and sunshine. Not long after this, they encountered a dire wolf, which the other wolves quickly convinced to join them. After a quick taming spell from the little mage girl, the dire wolf transformed into a German shepherd. Still not sure what to make of this, but deciding to just keep going rather than break their brains trying to make sense of this. The others quietly followed behind the little mage girl as she continued her rainbows and glitter-powered adventure crawl. After walking a short ways further, the team stumbled onto a large and powerful ogre. However, upon him seeing the now sizable group of adventurers and their familiars, he raised a finger in a gesture to halt, as he did not want them to attack him, especially since he knew exactly what would happen if they did. "1 second, and I'll be right with you," he said respectfully. He then summoned a HUD in front of himself, pressed several buttons on it, and magically transformed himself a moment later into a gigantic, fluffy panda bear. The little mage girl's eyes immediately grew as wide as dinner plates upon seeing this. "It's a teddy bear," she exclaimed excitedly. The now transformed ogre smiled happily. "Yes, I am. Can I join your team?" he asked. "Yes," squealed the little mage girl and the other animals with her. As the little mage girl and her growing troop of familiars continued on, the team leader and his 2 buddies just stood there in confusion, uncertain of exactly what they should do as things continued to get weirder and weirder the further they went. Eventually, though, the leader turned around and began heading the other way. "Where are you going?" asked one of the other 2. "Back to town. This is just getting too weird," he muttered. However, to his surprise, his other 2 teammates looked at each other briefly and then put on rainbow-colored unicorn hats and brightly colored capes. "Are you kidding me? This is the most fun we've had in ages," they said in unison. They then turned and hurried away to join with the little mage girl and her growing troop of cute and cuddly animals. The leader quietly stood there for several moments as he watched this, and then face-palmed in disbelief. "I so need another team.